right, so this is my tight end rankings at the end of the 2023 NFL season. Let's get started here. I got 10 honorable mentions here. I got Jimmy Graham, Lucas Kroll, Andrew Ogletree, Harrison Bryant, Pharaoh Brown, Elijah Higgins, Johnny Munt, Austin Hooper, Davis Allen, and Stone Smart. So a lot of these names don't really matter. A lot of these, first tight ends that I'm going to talk about, I don't have a whole lot to say because I listed 50 tight ends on here just because I didn't really know a good number to stop at. So I thought 50 was a good number to get to, but honestly, I don't even know all these 50 tight ends really. So like, I don't have a whole lot to say about the guys here at the bottom of the list. Number 50 is going to be Will Dissly. He was okay, 170 yards, one touchdown, over 10 yards per game. It's like okay, not too much to say about him. Number 49 is Foster Moreau, had like 13 yards per game, nearly 200 total yards with one touchdown in 15 games played. Will Mallory had over 200 yards, no touchdowns, but 17 yards per game in his 12 games played is pretty decent, I guess. Number 47 is going to be Durham Smythe. He had 366 yards per game, 23 total yards, or 23 yards per game, 366 total yards in 16 games. It's pretty solid. 46 is Drew Sample. He had 2 touchdowns, 160 yards in 17 games. Some solid numbers there. 45 is Daniel Bellinger. I did have him at number 30. My original video. He underperformed there. Only 255 yards, like 15 yards per game, 0 touchdowns. Definitely underwhelming from what I thought he was going to do. 44 is Mo Alie-Cox. I had him coming in at 33. He was also kind of underwhelming. He still had 3 touchdowns this season, but only 9.5 yards per game with a total of 160 yards. A little bit underwhelming there. 43 is going to be Josh Oliver. He had over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. So like a decent season there, I guess. 42 is going to be Colby Parkinson. He had about 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, like a decent season for him. 41 is going to be Mike Gesicki. I had him coming in at number 9. I thought he was one of the better tight ends in the league last year with Tua, but going from Tua to Mac Jones / Bailey Zappi, I guess, does stuff to you. I figured he could go there and be like a go-to target for them because he was so good last year. But obviously, he's probably just a product of Mike McDaniel's offense as well as, having Tua versus Mac Jones. So definitely a worse season than I thought it was going to have. Only 244 yards and 2 touchdowns. Number 40 is going to be Adam Trautman. He was decent for the Broncos, over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in 17 games. 39 is Kylen Granson. He was decent, 368 yards and 1 touchdown. Nearly 25 yards per game is pretty decent there. 38 is going to be Noah Fant. I had him coming in at number 20. Definitely worse than I thought he was going to be. He had 0 touchdowns this season. Over 400 yards is pretty good, though. Number 37 is going to be Tommy Trimble. About 200 yards for him, 3 touchdowns in 16 games. 36 is going to be Dawson Knox. Had him coming in at number 8. I thought he was going to be the Bills' go-to tight end still this year, and Kincaid would take over next year. Obviously, Kincaid kind of took over this year, and Dawson Knox was a secondary guy. So he had less than 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in only 12 games played. Number 35 is Hayden Hurst. Had him coming in at 28. He only played in 9 games. He had over 20 yards a game and 1 touchdown. So, pretty decent numbers for him, I guess. 34 is going to be Noah Gray. He was solid for the Chiefs, over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. A good secondary tight end for them. And he was pretty good for us, or I guess decent for us in the playoffs as well. 33 is going to be Chigo Okonkwo for the Titans. I had him at 16. Thought it was going to be better than he was. He had over 500 yards and 54 receptions, which is pretty solid. But he only had 1 touchdown. Probably, I thought he was going to get a couple more touchdowns than that. 32 is Tyler Conklin. Had him at 36, so about the right spot there. Over 600 yards in 17 games, pretty solid. One of the highest receiving yard leaders on the New York Jets, but he did not record a single touchdown. The 31 is going to be Tucker Kraft for the Packers. He had 355 yards and 2 touchdowns, so over 20 yards a game. Pretty decent there. Had him at 32, so only 1 spot off from the start. 30 is going to be Brevin Jordan for the Texans. I thought he was pretty good. 220 yards, 2 touchdowns in 9 games played. I thought he did good in their playoff game as well. So he's definitely better than I thought he was going to be. Number 29 is Michael Mayer for the Raiders. He had over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is definitely decent. Definitely better than I thought he was going to be as well. 28 is Donald Parham. He was pretty solid. He had 4 total touchdowns in nearly 300 yards in 14 games played. Number 27 is Tanner Hudson. He had 350 yards and one touchdown in his 12 games played. Nearly 30 yards per game is pretty decent for a tight end. 26 is Luke Musgrave for the Packers. They got two tight ends coming in here. He had 350 yards and one touchdown in 11 games played. So 32 yards a game is pretty good for Luke Musgrave here. 25 is going to be Zach Ertz. I had him coming in at 14. He did not really play a whole lot this season. Only played 7 games, had 180 yards and one touchdown, but still some solid numbers there for him in his very limited time that he did play. 24 is going to be Tyler Higbee. Had him at 17. Definitely dropped a couple spots here. He had nearly 500 yards and two touchdowns, though, so definitely some solid numbers there. Just definitely not as good as quite as good as I thought he was going to be. 23 is going to be Darren Waller. I thought this guy was going to be, really, really good for the Giants because, I thought he was going to be their number one target out of everybody, not just, tight ends. But, that did not happen. He only had 500 yards and one touchdown in 12 games. 46 yards a game is still pretty solid, but only one touchdown. When you have a very underwhelming wide receiver core, I feel like Darren Waller definitely should have been able to, be a better option for the Giants. 22 is Logan Thomas. I had him at 29, so jumped up a couple spots here. He had over 500 yards almost and 4 total touchdowns, but he also had a couple of fumbles to go with that as well. 21 is going to be Jonnu Smith. Actually got 2 Falcons receivers going to be up here in the top 21. It's pretty good for them. I had him coming in unranked, right? Did not think they were going to use him as much as they did, but he had over 580 yards, 50 receptions, and 3 touchdowns. He did have 1 fumble, but still was really, really solid in his time that he did play. Played in every single game. Number 20 is going to be Pat Freiermuth. I had him at number 6. I thought he was going to be one of the best tight ends in the league. I thought he's, I thought he was really good last year. I didn't really expect him to regress this much. He only had 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in 12 games played, which is not great compared to his recent years. Number 19 is going to be Kyle Pitts. So a little bit better than Jonnu Smith from the same team. He had 667 yards and 3 touchdowns and 53 receptions in 17 games. Definitely thought it was going to be better still because, he's such a good talent, but Arthur Smith's retarded. Number 18 is Dalton Kincaid. I thought he was really good this year. 73 receptions for 670 yards and 2 touchdowns as a rookie tight end. There's some really, really solid numbers there. Going to jump up 6 spots from my rankings here. Number 17 is Juwan Johnson. Had him coming in at 25. He was really good, I thought. 37 receptions for 370 yards and 4 touchdowns in his 13 games played. And some really, really good numbers, I feel like, for him. Number 16 is going to be Isaiah Likely. I did not have him coming in ranked. I did not expect him to be that good as he was, but obviously with Mark Andrews being injured, he got an expanded role. So definitely helped a lot. He had 5 touchdowns and over 400 yards in his 17 games played. Number 15 is going to be Cade Otton. I had him coming in at 34. Definitely outperformed those expectations. He was a really good receiver or tight end for the Bucs this year. Over 450 yards with 4 touchdowns in 17 games played. Number 14 is going to be Gerald Everett. I thought he was pretty good this year for the Chargers. Jumps up 7 spots here in my rankings. He had over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns in 15 games played with over 50 receptions as well. Definitely one of their leading receivers for the Chargers. 13 is going to be Dallas Goedert. I thought he was pretty good for the Eagles. Almost 600 yards with 3 touchdowns. Still really, really good numbers there in 14 games played. Evan Ingram had at number 13 coming in. He's going to fall here at number 12. He had almost 1,000 total yards, so I thought it'd be higher on this list, especially having 114 receptions. But he only had 4 touchdowns and he had 2 fumbles lost. So that definitely hurts him a lot there. If he would have, not fumbled, not lost either of those fumbles, he'd probably be a couple spots higher on this list. Definitely cracking the top 10. Number 11 is going to be Trey McBride for the Cardinals. So I thought Zach Ertz was basically going to be their tight end, and that's going to be that. But Trey McBride basically, lost Zach Ertz's job. He was too good for Zach Ertz to play, so they cut him and stuff. He had over 80 receptions with 800 yards and 3 touchdowns as a rookie tight end, I believe. I think he's a rookie. Not 100% sure on that, but definitely really, really good season for him. Number 10 is going to be Hunter Henry for the Patriots. So I thought Mike Gesicki was going to be your guys' tight end to go to, but apparently it was Hunter Henry. He had 42 receptions, almost 420 yards in 14 games played, with 6 touchdowns. So I believe he was your guys' touchdown leader. Not 100% sure on that, but I definitely think he was your reception touchdown leader. Number 9 is going to be Dalton Schultz for the Texans. I had him at number 12. He was a little bit better than I thought he was. Over 600 yards with 5 touchdowns, nearly 60 receptions in 15 games played, with some really, really solid numbers. Number 8 is going to be Cole Kmet from the Bears. Had him at 19. Came in at number 8. Definitely better than I thought it was going to be. He was really, really solid. He had 73 receptions for over 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. Definitely a top 10 tight end in the league this season. Definitely a really good weapon there for Justin Fields. Number 7 is going to be Jake Ferguson from the Cowboys. So I had him at number 31 coming in. I did not think he was going to be their best tight end this season, but he was amazing with over 750 yards and 5 touchdowns and 70 receptions in 17 games. Number 6 is going to be TJ Hawkinson. Had him at 5. He stays at 6 here, so about the same there. Almost 100 yards or 100 receptions and almost 1,000 receiving yards with 5 touchdowns. 64 yards per game as a tight end is really good. In 15 games played, he was one of the best tight ends in the league, and he has been for the last few years. Number 5 is going to be David Njoku. Had him at 7. I'm going to jump up a couple spots here at number 5. He had over 882 yards with 81 receptions and 6 touchdowns. He did have 2 lost fumbles, which is going to drop him a couple more spots down than he probably would have been if he did not have either of those fumbles. But still, definitely a top 5 tight end in the league, in my opinion. Number 4 is going to be Mark Andrews. He only played in 10 games, but he still had over 550 yards and 6 touchdowns in those 10 games, which is some really, really good numbers. Number 3 is going to be Sam Laporta. Had him at 26 coming in. Did not expect a rookie tight end like this to come out with almost 900 yards and 10 touchdowns, but almost 900 yards and 10 touchdowns for Sam Laporta is some amazing work. Definitely could be one of the best tight ends of all time if he keeps these numbers up. Certainly looking to be the face of the tight end league for the future after Kelce and Kittle eventually retire. Kelce probably is going to retire pretty soon. And then Sam Laporta very well could just take over that tight end, that number 1 tight end spot pretty quickly, honestly. Number 2 is going to be George Kittle with 65 receptions and 1,000 yards with 6 touchdowns. So really, really good here as well. Very comparable to Laporta. I think Laporta definitely had more touchdowns, but Kittle was also really good in the playoffs. I think Kittle's a better blocker and stuff as well. I don't really have any problem with you putting Sam Laporta over George Kittle or even all the way up to number 1. But I'm going to personally give it to George Kittle at number 2 right now. And then number 1 is going to be Travis Kelce. He only played 15 games. He still nearly had 100 receptions with 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns. So definitely still one of the best seasons as a tight end this year. And he definitely, boosted his status with another insane postseason run for him. So looking at the tight ends that I missed that are missing from my previous video at the beginning of the season. I had CJ Uzomah in there at 35. He just simply was not good enough this year to make it. I had Jelani Woods in there at 18 and Greg Dulcich at 15. Those guys were just injured too much to make it into this video. But yeah, that is going to be the video. Thank you for watching. I'm not exactly sure what is coming next for the NFL side of this channel, but I will try to make some content still. So be sure to look out for that. And thank you.